Now stop scrolling because this is how ChatGPT actually works. And no, it is not magic. It's not just typing random stuff and hoping to get smart. It is real, it is complex, it is freaking awesome. They generate essays, solve bugs, write bedtime stories, debate philosophy, but seriously, how does it do that? What is actually happening behind the scene when you type your prompts? Today, you and I are gonna decode the mystery behind language models. You don't need a PhD, you don't need to know calculus. All you just need is your curiosity and maybe a bit of coffee. Now we're gonna start with the basics, like what is language model? How does it break that sentence into tiny bits? How does it understand sentence? How does it decide what word comes next? And eventually we'll dive into the brain of this language model. Transformers, layering, training, fine-tuning, all of it. We're gonna break it down like you're 5. Obviously, you know 5, but we're gonna try to break it down as simple as possible. By the end of this video, I promise you, you're gonna know about AI. More than 99% of people that use it. You're going to go from wait, what is a token, to bro, this attention mechanism is insane. Alright, enough of the talking. Let's get into the video. Let's start with the simplest piece of puzzle. What is language model? Which is called LLM. If tech will talk about GPT-4, Gemini, Llama, and so on. Well, what do they actually do? Let's take a sentence. The cat sat on the. What word do you think will come next? Mat, couch, roof, keyboard. A language model is a computer program that tries to predict the next word. But here's the thing. It doesn't just predict it randomly. It tries to predict it based on what it has learned from reading a massive amount of data. Everything from Wikipedia, articles, GitHub code, Stack Overflow, videos we dumped into the training process. And the model will learn from it and start to notice patterns. Like when people say the cat sat on the, they usually follow it with mats. The cat sat on the mats. Just like that, the LLM model knows that there are certain words that follows after others. And that is what we call pattern recognition. When it sees a start of a sentence, it gives each possible next word a score, and it does this one word at a time, over and over again until you have a paragraph, a sentence, a poem, a code, and so on. Now, this process happens super fast. And when you type your prompts, behind the scene, the model will have to break all of these down into bits called tokens. So that means ChatGPT is basically predicting the next token. But what is actually a token? Is it a word? Is it a letter? Is it a chocolate coin from a vending machine? Let's break it down. Here's a sentence. I love pizza with pineapple. Now that is 6 words right there. But to a language model like ChatGPT, it might actually be seeing more than 6 tokens. A token is not the same thing as a word. Sometimes it is a word, sometimes a part of a word, or even a symbol or punctuation mark. If you want to try some examples of token, you can use this free tokenizer tool by OpenAI on taktokenizer.vercel.app. Try putting in your own sentence. Now you'll be surprised how words get split up. Now, why should we even care about token? I mean, why can't we just type our prompt and do our thing and care less about this token? Well, you can't. And why? Because tokens are how LLM measure cost, length limit, and speed. So quick tip, if your prompt is too long or you're getting a cut-off answer, you might actually be hitting the token limits. Yeah, the LLM model has broken down your words into tiny chunks called tokens. But how does it know which token to focus on? Why does it give you a smart answer? It's not just baffing out random words. The answer? Attention. Now, attention is a way for the model to decide which words matter the most right now. Let's say you write, the dog chased the ball because it was rolling. What was rolling? The dog or the ball? So as human, your brain literally figure out, oh yeah, it is the ball that was rolling. But how does ChatGPT do that? Attention is the model way of saying, out of everything I have seen so far, which one should I focus on to guess the next token? Imagine you're playing a game with ChatGPT and you ask ChatGPT, what is the capital of France? Now, the model doesn't just look at the last word France. It looks at every word, then it decides which one matters most to predict Paris. That is attention at work. Now let's bring in the big one, transformer. Now this is a part of the model that takes all your tokens, understand how they relate to each other, and figures out what to say next. The transformer architecture has three major sections: the input embedding, the encoder and decoder block, and the output layer. But now, model doesn't understand words. It understands numbers. So we have to convert those tokens into numbers called reflector. Now, this process is what we call embedding. But encoder and decoder is where the real work happens. It has different layers. Now for the output layer, once you have passed the token through all the layers, you are left with super rich embeddings. The model then uses a final layer to guess the next token. So now we know that ChatGPT predicts the next tokens. It's not like humans that understand words or get facts or even have memory. Woo! Wait a minute. It doesn't have memory. How does it then remember what you said? I mean, you have had a long chat with ChatGPT and somehow it knows what you said just a few minutes ago. How does it do that? Well, this LLM models doesn't have memories like humans do. It can't store your long conversation. But since it doesn't have memory, how does it flow in the chat? Now, this is something we call context window. A context window is the number of tokens the model can see at once. Think of it like this: it is reading your message and also its previous reply all at the same time. Now let me show you what happens behind the scene during a chat. Let's say you tell the model to write a short story about a robot. The model will respond with a story. Now you tell the model to make the robot fall in love. All that moment, the model sees your full story request plus your reply plus your new prompt all at once. It is not remembering the old stuff. It is just reading it every single time. What happens when your conversation gets too long or when you exceed the token limit? Simple. The old stuff gets cut up. That's why sometimes when you're talking with ChatGPT, it seems like you forgot what you said 50 messages ago. Well, maybe you've just exceeded your token limit. So next time this happens, don't think that the model is dumb. No. It actually ran out of context window. Alright, so we have tackled what LLM is, how it predicts words, how it breaks down words into tiny tokens, and how it can remember your stuff. That is a burning question. How do we train something like this? What kind of hardware do we need? How much data do you need? How do you teach the model to talk like humans do? How does it get so good at answering every single thing you throw at it? Alright. Calm your nerves. We're gonna answer that. First off, you need massive amount of text. We're talking about billions of data. The model learns by reading, so you need to give it Wikipedia, news articles, open source books, web pages, GitHub code, basically everything public that humans have written. So once you gather this data, I know you'll be thinking the next thing is to train it. But hold up. The internet is messy. So the next thing you have to do is to clean this data. Internet has spam, it has broken messages, garbage codes, rants, and so on. So before we feed the data to our model, we run a cleanup phase. Remove nonsense, remove private data, filter explicit or biased content, then format everything nicely into text plus tokens. Once you don't clean up the data, here comes the most exciting part: designing and training the model. So now we can feed it all this data to train it. But let's not forget, this needs a serious hardware. Thousands of GPUs, huge data centers, billions of training steps, power bills in millions. Whoa, that was a lot. We went from what language models are to how they are broken down into tokens, to attention and transformers, to how they are trained. And now you know how tools like ChatGPT works under the hood. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how LLM can become agents and why LLMs hallucinate. So if you found this video helpful, smash the subscribe button